So I have a friend that's not a big fan of 14, but I'm trying to get him into the good part. We made a deal. I would play WoW, and he would play Final Fantasy 14. Should he skip ARR? And my very first question is effectively, what is it that makes each of you feel that your game is the better game? Or is the game worth playing? The idea that ARR is not the good part tells me that this person likely plays World of Warcraft and not for narrative. They're not somebody that's buying all 42 novels. Maybe they've watched a novel video or something like that. But that the story is not why they do it. And so the first thing I would ask that person is, how are they liking the mandatory story beats that have been making their way into modern expansions of World of Warcraft? Battle for Azeroth called this the War Campaign. Shadowlands called this Campaign Quests. Dragonflight calls this Campaign Quests. And so we have seen more and more things become mandatory over the years, to the point where Dragonflight actually has a core campaign required to do the zones in order, and that there is content locked behind it. So it becomes a main scenario quest, which Final Fantasy uses as the term for MSQ. So my very first question would be, what did they think of that? Because if they liked that, then they can take their time with Final Fantasy and you guys can do it together. I would encourage the Final Fantasy player to create a new character, because so much of the game really isn't quite the same with New Game Plus. New Game Plus is better as, in my opinion, a reference tool, like a textbook that you flip open to just check something, to re-experience something. Because ultimately, any side quests that are worth doing, things like tribal quests, a lot of those aren't in New Game Plus. Not to mention that in New Game Plus, you end up like, you have flight and they don't, you're overpowered and they're not, and so just go through it with them. And then when you get to single player scenarios, start it at the same time, come out the other end, set goals, and play a little each week. But assuming they don't like lore, if you're gonna skip ARR, why not just buy the massive skip? Why not just go as far as it lets you skip and just get them into current content as fast as possible? Some of the biggest issues with coming over from World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy XIV are things like the global cooldown. If they're an expert in World of Warcraft already, they know their way around, they've got good gear, they've been playing it for a long time, 2.5 seconds between thoughts with no off globals available, no jobstone until 30, no complete class until the end of ARR, it's not going to feel good. But Endwalker might. Endwalker really might feel just fine. And so I would jump them forward and then maybe watch some catch-up videos together. Maybe you go watch something from like Jesse Cox or Ethis Asher or Aeolian Archives or Syndotic Scribe or whoever your favorite lore creator is. Go catch up together and then take on Endwalker as a pair. I would jump straight to the good part. And the good part there being the current part. It has nothing to do with quality. It has nothing to do with anything else. So much of Endwalker will make no sense to them, because it is meant to be a callback to every other expansion. But that's okay, because that is your chance as a pair who decided to take on these games together. You are not a standard person going out to the internet, Googling what MMO should I play and hitting download. You are going in with an escort, and the goal is to play with that person. So they are going to have a ton of questions. What the hell's an Ascian? What the hell is a Primal? What's this whole Ether thing? Where are we? Who are these people? And you know all of those answers. So it is an opportunity to show your passion and your joy for Final Fantasy XIV and guide them through that experience. And you know them. You know the parts that will interest them more than anybody else ever could. And that is an opportunity to then flip the coin. How would a Final Fantasy player get into World of Warcraft? Well, there's really no easy way to get into the lore like you would with Final Fantasy. If you wanted to have that 400-hour journey to get caught up, you wouldn't just go to novels videos. As brilliant as they are summaries. You would start at the beginning. You would start with things like Warcraft and go back and play the RTS stories on campaign. You'd read a bunch of books. You'd go back and do all this stuff. Maybe you'd go experience Classic before seeing what happened to those zones in Cataclysm. You would go do these little D&D one-shots through the zones and read every quest, and it would be this massive journey. But the game isn't really set up to make that a guided process. And so ultimately what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up learning the combat system very rapidly through their leveling zone, which is called Exile's Reach. You're then going to be blasting through Battle for Azeroth, which will not make sense. And before you even finish it, you will be dumped onto the Dragon Isles. The Dragon Isles are told to you in a way that will be fun and engaging, but you won't have any past relationship with any of those people. So it will mimic Shadowbringers, where you are being introduced to these scions that you already had a relationship with. And so somebody who did previous content before Dragonflight will go, oh, that's so-and-so. But a new player, hi, nice to meet you. What's the deal with this person? And your WoW friend will hopefully be able to ask. This gives you, in my opinion, the most chances to play with this person. What is the best way for a WoW player and a Final Fantasy XIV player to try each other's games? And that's with each other. They get to run dungeons together for the first time. They get to gear up together for the first time. They get to level up for the first time. And they get to share their passion and their expertise. There is nothing more fun than playing a game with somebody who's passionate about that game. Going to a sporting event with somebody who's passionate about that sport. Going to a convention with an expert on that subject. Being around nerds is fun. And you get to be each other's nerds. They may have no history with Final Fantasy as a franchise. They may have never played or enjoyed a Square Enix title in their life. And they're not doing it to play a Square Enix title. They're doing it to play with you. So I would skip all of it. I would skip everything. That way they're not feeling like they're having to just wolf it down to get a taste, and then it saves it should they actually end up enjoying it. Should they enjoy Endwalker and they're like, man, I just wish I knew what was going on. Now you can justify, okay, well, how about on Saturday mornings we start diving into lore? And we'll play together for an hour or two. We'll never truly be caught up, but we'll just start our journey together. And who knows, maybe you do the same thing with World of Warcraft. You start diving into lore on World of Warcraft. You're like, I don't even know where to start. And you guys could both New Game Plus it at that point, because at that point the lore is the goal. But you've already hit the goal of, I'm enjoying this game with my friend. That's how I would jump in. I would just do it all at once. Just rip the band-aid off and try to get to the good part, which is the part where I get to play with my friends. Because the goal in this question is not how do I get into Final Fantasy. In which case, there's going to be a lot of people that say you should give the lore a shot. It's kind of a big part of it. So if you end up liking it, that's a really great way to develop a lot of love for this game. And if you don't like it, you can always start skipping. But you should start by trying the lore out. But that's not what this question says to me. This question says, this is somebody who already knows they're not a fan of Final Fantasy XIV, and they want to play it anyway because they want to play with you. And so the good part is the part where they get to play with you. So the good part is where you're both getting a drop from the new Alliance raid. The good part is where you're both running the dungeon that comes in 6.4 together on day one. The good part is where you're taking them through Pandemonium, or you're queuing for Crystalline Conflict at the exact same time, hoping to get into the same match, maybe against each other, maybe on the same team. The good part is running maps or hunts together. The good part is playing with your friends. Because that's what it sounds like this is. They've already said, I do not like Final Fantasy XIV, but I am willing to play it. If you're willing to play WoW, which says, I think there's things that you'd enjoy doing with me, the WoW player. Come try this with me. And I would hope they are thinking of the same thing. How do I get them in? Do I take them back through the various buggy launches we've had over the years? Do I make them go into Classic and grind up on their own? Be a warrior so they have to eat after every pull? No. I give them an incredibly luxurious, white-gloved experience. I hand them a pile of gold, I make a bunch of bags for them, I feed them a bunch of BOEs. They're in the best gear all the time. I've got my Sandstone Drake so that if they don't have flying unlocked in a particular area, they can get on my mount and I can take them. I'm going to take them straight to the good stuff. I'm going to get them into Dragonflight, I'm going to get them riding dragons. We're going to do World Quests together. We're going to run Mythic Plus together. I'm going to take them in LFR and just show them why that's Alliance raids times 1,000. I'm going to dump them right into the stuff that I'm doing right now and I'm having fun with right now, and is the reason that I don't want to just drop WoW to play 14 with you. I want to keep playing WoW, and I want you to play WoW with me. That's the good part. So this is a great question, and I think a lot of people start to immediately assume I need to give them the premier experience of my game. And that skips entirely over what I feel is the subject of this comment. It's not about, hey, I'm not playing any other games, and I have decided I want to dedicate my entire life to having the optimal experience in Final Fantasy XIV or in World of Warcraft. That is not what this is. This is what happens when an MMO player has a friend that plays a different MMO, and they want to try each other's game. I don't want to switch. I don't want to quit the game where I'm at. I'm happy where I'm at. But I want to play games with you, and there's no crossplay between Eorzea and Azeroth. So I'm willing to take part of my week and log out of my game, not uninstall, not unsubscribe, and try your game. And because I'm going out of my way, I would appreciate if you would do the same in return. And I think that, in my opinion, going through older expansions of either game is not reflecting why I feel both these games are healthy today. I think both these games are in an incredible spot in 2023. They're both looking like they're going to be in an incredible spot for the remainder of 2023. So let's get them to the good part where they're playing with their friends. An MMO is never better than when you feel you get to be part of a community. The MMO part. The single player stuff can be very enjoyable, and it's important that it's there. But if we have a limited amount of time, I want to get you straight to the good part. Skipping ARR is a double-edged sword. You lose out on the world building, but you don't. But you don't, because you're playing with somebody who did it. You have your friend right there who knows how you communicate and how you think and the parts that you'll like the most. And if that friend explains part of it and it sounds really cool, hey, you were kind of telling me a summary of that Omega thing. That sounds really cool. Is there a way I can do that? Yeah, and actually, it's been a while since I've done it, so how about we do that together? How about we do that together? I think that'd be really fun. Let me go hop into New Game Plus, and I'll do Omega with you, and we'll do it in one big sitting. It's 4 or 5 hours long. I think that'll be a great time. It'll refresh my memory. It'll be all new for you. The fights are super fun. We'll have a great time. Cool. That Omega thing was really fun. Are there more things like that? Yeah, there are. Yeah, there are. Let me tell you about a few of them. They're all there. Just because you skipped it doesn't mean you can't go back and enjoy it.